Have you ever wondered why racism even exists? Why do people who look different get treated differently? Why has this dangerous idea survived for centuries and even found its way into our systems, governments, schools, and minds? Before we begin, pause this video and tell us in the comments which upcoming video topic from Equal Voices Hub are you most excited about: the psychology of hate, systemic injustice in education, or the truth about reparations? We want your voice heard, because Equal Voices Hub is not just about stories, it's about your voice, your experience, and our shared future. Now let's begin. Imagine being hated, hunted, enslaved, or even killed simply because of your skin color. Seems irrational, right? But this has been the cruel reality for millions, actually billions, throughout history. Racism is not natural. It is not biological. It is not scientific. It is created, crafted, carefully constructed like a machine, and it began long before the word racism even existed. To understand the reasons behind racism, we have to understand human fear and power. It all starts with the oldest form of identity, us versus them. When human societies were small and isolated, people feared what was different. This fear, while irrational, had roots in survival. Foreign tribes, unfamiliar languages, strange customs, these were seen as threats. But something changed when power, wealth, and land became more important than cooperation. Fast forward to the 15th century, the age of exploration had begun. European empires began sailing across the world in search of gold, spices, and territory. But what they found instead was people. And with these encounters came a question: how do you conquer, enslave, and exploit other human beings and still sleep at night? The answer was horrifyingly simple. You convince yourself they are not human. That's where propaganda comes in. From the very beginning, racism needed lies. It needed art, literature, religion, and science to serve its agenda. European explorers didn't just describe the people they met, they distorted them. Africans were painted as savage, hypersexual, and animalistic. Indigenous people were labeled primitive, barbaric, and godless. Asians were considered cunning, deceitful, and inferior. Every lie was tailored to justify control and domination. This propaganda machine was deliberate. In 1455, Pope Nicholas V issued the Romanus Pontifex papal bull granting Portugal the divine right to enslave non-Christians. This wasn't just a religious decree, it was the ideological foundation of racial slavery. Soon after, the transatlantic slave trade began, and with it, the modern era of racial oppression. Racism became a tool for labor, a tool for empire, a tool for profit, and like every powerful tool, it needed maintenance. Colonial governments funded studies to prove that white Europeans were biologically superior. In 1779, German scientist Johann Friedrich Blumenbach created a racial classification system based on skull shapes, placing Caucasians at the top. These pseudoscientific ideas would fuel racism for centuries. Now let's pause here. Ask yourself, do you see how racism isn't just hate? It's a story, a script, a system designed, maintained, reinforced over and over again. Let's travel to one of the first violent acts in history that can truly be called a race-based targeted incident. The massacre of Indigenous Taino people by Christopher Columbus and his men in 1493. Yes, that's right. The man we were taught to celebrate was the architect of mass genocide. After landing in the Caribbean, Columbus reported back that the Taino were noble, gentle, and loving. But the moment gold entered the picture, his description changed. They became barbaric, uncivilized, and subhuman. Why? Because if they were seen as human, European powers couldn't justify killing them, enslaving them, or stealing their land. So, they changed the narrative. Propaganda was their weapon. Within a few years, over 90% of the Taino were wiped out, either killed, worked to death, or decimated by European diseases. This wasn't an accident. It was racialized thinking. It was racism in its infancy, learning how powerful it could be. And it didn't stop in the Americas. Africans were kidnapped and forced into brutal slavery. But again, that required justification. Slave owners spread ideas that Africans were stronger, less intelligent, less emotional, even less sensitive to pain, so that beating them felt acceptable. These lies were passed through generations, embedded in textbooks, sermons, and laws. In the US, the Constitution counted enslaved Africans as 3/5 of a person. Just think about that. It was written into law that a black person was not fully human. And yet, this same propaganda was often contradicted. Enslaved people built civilizations, led revolts, sang songs of freedom, and preserved cultures in the face of impossible violence. But still, the story of inferiority persisted. In the 19th century, racism evolved again, this time through scientific racism. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution was twisted into a racist ideology called social Darwinism. It argued that whites were more evolved than others and thus destined to rule. This ideology fueled colonialism, apartheid, eugenics, and the Holocaust. Yes, the Holocaust. The Nazi regime didn't invent racism, but they perfected its propaganda. Hitler's vision of a pure Aryan race was built on centuries of anti-Semitic and racist ideology. Jews, Roma people, Slavs and others were dehumanized in textbooks, films, newspapers, and children's stories. The propaganda was so powerful that millions of ordinary Germans participated in or allowed genocide to occur. Let that sink in. Propaganda is not just information, it is transformation. It turns neighbors into threats. It turns empathy into fear. It turns human beings into targets. Racism is not just about belief, it's about benefit. Throughout history, people have upheld racism not because they truly hated others, but because racism gave them something: land, labor, money, status, superiority. And those benefits don't disappear overnight. Even after slavery was abolished, racism reinvented itself. Jim Crow laws, apartheid in South Africa, the caste system in India, redlining in the US, internment camps in Canada and the US for Japanese citizens, Islamophobia after 9/11, anti-Asian hate during the COVID-19 pandemic. The language shifts, but the logic remains. They are not like us, therefore they are less. Modern racism is often hidden behind polite words, meritocracy, colorblindness, neutrality, but the effects are real. Racial disparities in healthcare, education, housing, and policing are not accidents, they are results of centuries of propaganda that devalued black, brown, indigenous, and non-white lives. And here's the deepest wound of all. Racism teaches the oppressed to doubt their worth. Internalized racism is one of the most painful legacies of this system. It's the voice that whispers, "You're not good enough, you don't belong, stay quiet." But Equal Voices Hub exists to crush that lie. You belong. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. The solution to racism begins with unlearning the propaganda. It begins with recognizing the story and rewriting it. It starts in schools that teach true history, not whitewashed lies. It starts in homes where we challenge the language we grew up with. It starts in workplaces that reflect the diversity of the world, not the bias of a boardroom. It starts online in spaces like this, where we speak boldly, listen deeply, and rise together. Remember the question we asked earlier: why does racism exist? The answer is, it exists because people chose to build it. And now, we must choose to dismantle it. But this can't be done alone. We need you. We need your voice, your ideas, your fire. Drop a comment below. What is one lie about race you grew up believing but later unlearned? What woke you up? What moment cracked the surface? Let's make the comment section a healing space, a growing space, a learning space. This is not just a video, it's a movement. This is Equal Voices Hub, and your voice is equal here. And as we end this video, remember, the antidote to propaganda is truth. The weapon against racism is knowledge. And the power of change lies not just in systems but in stories. So let's tell a new story together.